Hey everyone, welcome back to Iguana Gaming. I'm the Iguana, and today we are doing something a little bit different here, guys. So today, I was granted an interview with T.S. Williamson, the CEO and owner of Wardrum Studios, who develops the mobile version of ARK. I was able to be paired up with SCHWALBE for this interview, so we asked TS a couple of questions about the upcoming 2.0 update. So I'm going to go ahead and spend some time running around on this berry while we play the interview audio here for you. And I hope you guys enjoy, because I had a lot of fun asking these questions. And thank you to everyone who submitted a question on the community poll that I did on YouTube a few days ago. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy the answers as much as I did. All right, so let's get going here. All right, well, let's go ahead and start off with a question from SCHWALBE. Will only eerie variants of dinos spawn, or will there also be normal dinosaurs in these dungeons?
I would say that the dungeons will be 99% eerie. The bosses, I believe some of the bosses will have minions that aren't, but anything that's in the dungeon itself, you can expect it to be eerie, yes.
Awesome. All right. Can you tell us any one thing about the mobile exclusive creature that you teased on Twitter?
I believe I said that was the only time that I will talk about it, and I think that's going to remain the case.
Right.
That's what I talked about. I talked about surprises for the dungeons. So that's definitely one of them.
Awesome. All right. Well, it was worth a shot. Will we be told what type of dinosaurs will also spawn in there that week, like similar to how you would tell us what tech would be in the dungeons?
I'm going to leave that up to the community managers. The way the dungeon listing will work is you'll access the dungeon at the obelisk, and the list, you'll see a list of the dungeons that are available. And in multiplayer, it'll always only be one, and that dungeon will have a description area that's available for them to put whatever they want in there. And so sometimes that might be relevant. If they want to have a dungeon where they don't want you to know, then that might be the case. It gives them, I want to give them as much flexibility with that as possible.
Okay, cool. All right, so what can you tell us about the mobile exclusive bosses that you'll be adding?
I can tell you that they will look very familiar, and they will not act very familiar.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Will there be elemental rooms in this dungeon, such as extreme heat or cold, or water rooms for water dinos?
There will definitely be more than just mobs spawning in these rooms. There's going to be environmental conditions. There's going to be special types of mobs that you would not encounter anywhere else. And there will also be dinos that you won't encounter anywhere else but the dungeon.
Interesting. All right. Can we get an idea of what the base health and damage will be on the bosses?
Yeah, I'd say you could probably count in single player, at least on the bosses having around 50,000 health. But some of them have less with more armor. Some of them have more powerful minions instead. They're really all sort of designed differently.
Okay. SCHWALBE would also like to know, how is tech balanced in a PvP and PvE sense?
Okay, so the tech is, because of the way that we're doing this by releasing a few items or one item at once based on what's in the dungeon, will allow us to keep things relatively balanced, because if we introduce something that causes a big imbalance in the game, usually there's a tech item that is a counter to that. And if not, we'll know we'll have only that one isolated part of the tech that's causing the issue that we can go in and rebalance more quickly. So the idea was that if we introduced all of the tech all at once, that would cause a huge problem with the meta, and we didn't want to do that. So the piecemeal, release of the tech items via the dungeons was sort of our solution to that. It gives us a lot more control and keeps things stable so everyone can enjoy the game.
Awesome. Will we be able to find Ascendant tech blueprints as well, or only primitive?
The quality of the blueprints is going to be absolutely up to the community managers. I would expect that they'll probably start with some lower quality stuff and introduce very difficult dungeons from time to time that have really high-end gear. The dungeons have this concept of having a locked door that you have to find the key for first and then get through, and then maybe they put some really difficult mob room behind that then gets you some really high-end tech gear. They'll have the ability to do all of those sorts of things, and I expect them to take full advantage of it.
Okay, cool. So then, looking a little bit at single player, will the Eerie element be coming to the God console? And then will the God console also be able to be used in dungeons on single player?
So the Eerie element will not be in the God console. I believe, though, that one of the real reasons for that is the God console does a lot for you on the island. But it will not work for you in the dungeons. And the reason why we decided on that was really just because we're designing these dungeons to make sure that players can really enjoy the experience in there. And if you have the God console, you can load yourself up with all of the best tech or all the best gear and get in there and go through the dungeon and explore it and enjoy it. And the moment we turned the God console in there, we found ourselves doing things like breaking the room logic. Whenever we would kill a dino with the God console, the rooms weren't working, and there's just all these bugs that got introduced, and kind of made sense to both to protect the player from those bugs and also to make sure that we could design the experience we wanted, that we would make that available to them. Yeah, initially no Eerie element in the God console. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to promise anything with that, just because, again.
Whoa. Sorry, my audio just freaked out. That got super loud. Would you mind repeating that?
Oh, sure. So, long story short, when we turned the God console on in single player in the dungeon, it was causing all sorts of bugs and problems, and the dungeons are kind of fragilely put together based on how they work. So we had to turn it off, and that's kind of okay. The single player is going to be easier than multiplayer for the dungeons. Players should be able to explore it and enjoy it. But the Eerie element, we don't currently have plans to put in the God console, but I'm not going to say never.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so then is it possible that a player could use the teleport button on a mount to teleport themselves and their mount into dungeons?
Definitely won't work. It'll dismount you and you'll teleport into the dungeon. Your tame will stay. And it's worth mentioning that there's lore that will make sense as to why once players figure out the story.
Okay, very cool. Will grappling hooks work on the walls?
Definitely not. There are some traps in the dungeons that are necessary.
Okay.
So you'd just be able to go right past them with the grappling hook. So we turned it off. And it also just removes the challenge. If if you have a mob that can't reach you and you grappled to the ceiling or something, it was just not any fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Will there be a brief period of invincibility when exiting a dungeon to protect players from being ambushed and having all their items stolen?
Well, how it works is whenever you complete the boss, you'll be given the kind of the fast travel UI. So you'll be able to go to whichever spawn zone or bed that you have on the island.
Okay.
So that's your protection. So you're going to be able to go to a place. So hopefully your base doesn't get raided and you lose all your beds while you're off in the dungeon. That'd probably be the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that would not be good. All right, so then I'm also assuming that Eerie dinos don't have a small chance to spawn on the island as well.
They do not. The only way to get new Eerie dinos is going to be to find an implant in the dungeon or to breed them on the island.
All right. All right, so switching over to some more of my questions. Will the Eerie creatures be revivable at a reduced amber cost as compared to normal revive taming?
That's a good question. I really do believe that we don't have anything set up for that. It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. If we make it so it's cheaper for the Eerie creatures, then you could have an advantage over the other players later after that creature had been used on the island. It makes sense though to make it so they're cheaper to revive when they come out of the dungeon. I can look into that because I don't think there's any logic in place to differentiate this implant came from a dungeon or this implant is from a creature that just died. But we can look into that. So I don't know if that'll be something that's available on release, but it's not a bad idea.
Awesome. That's good to know you're thinking about it. All right. So will dungeon difficulty scale with server difficulty? For example, how difficult could we expect a brutal difficulty boss to be?
The difficulty will scale just like it does for the servers in terms of the dinos that spawn on the island. So easy will be the base levels, and then medium will be times the scaler for medium difficulty and hard and brutal like that. But the traps and all that will all be the same difficulty.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so ammo for multiple room fights and a boss fight is going to be really heavy, and the Eerie pistol only does about a journeyman level damage. So are there plans for like an Eerie compound bow or another more powerful Eerie weapon that could help reduce our weight in the dungeons?
Not currently, but there will be ways to get ammo in the dungeons, and there are one or two tech items that once you have them will probably make the dungeons a lot more palatable. I would recommend getting pretty good with a bow and arrow for some of the mob rooms, though.
Okay. Interesting. Will there be a way to exit the dungeon early without losing all of the items you gathered so far? That's something my community really wanted to know.
There is currently no plans for that. The only way to get what's in the dungeon is to beat the dungeon.
Okay.
It's not like a cave where you can come in and out. And again, just like the mount thing, there is a reason for this. It will be explained why, and then it will make a lot of sense.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. We're kind of running out of time here, but my community also wanted to know, would you guys consider adding a toast item to the game at some point?
A toast item?
Yes.
Want to elaborate?
There is a large meme on my channel about how iguanas love toast, and my community has been asking for a toast item for quite a while here, and so I figured this would be a good opportunity to put it out there.
Okay. Noted.
All right. Cool. Thank you so much.
I can give you like 2 more questions.
Oh, cool. If you steal an enemy's chronicled tame and you unchronicle it, will it belong to you or will return as a wild creature? And would you need to use a revival platform to chronicle and unchronicle a tame?
To chronicle it, you do not need a revival platform.
Okay.
To unchronicle it, you do.
Okay.
Because just like basically chronicling is essentially 2 things. Instead of dying, you're saving your creature into the implants. The implant is different. And because it's locked in there, there's no timer on it. And it's much, much cheaper. I think it's 2 ambers, what we said, to revive it. So after you've chronicled it, though, it's just the same as an implant, other than the fact that there's no timer. So yeah, someone could steal it. If they revived it, it would be wild, just like if you had stolen another implant, things like that.
Awesome. All right. So, are there any plans for like a way to track where we've been in the dungeon or some sort of path marker? Because I know based on the scale of these things and the map that you've teased, it looks like it might be very difficult to find your way around.
The only tools that you will have will be the map, and the map knowing where you are in the dungeon in terms of top, bottom, left side, right side is actually pretty good information. Once we've had our players in-house who are helping us play test, given the feedback that's been enough. I kind of expect a couple channels to pop up pretty quickly, though, to have dungeon run-throughs on YouTube and things like that. And players will use the tools that they find. I kind of thought about the path element a lot and decided that it made sense for the exploration to not need that. So what we've been really working on is making it sure that the dungeons feel different enough so as you're running around that you know where you are. kind of implicitly based on, you know, your surroundings.
I'm really excited about this. Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay, guys, so I think that is going to do it for today's episode. So, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that interview. I hope you all learned a little bit of something about the 2.0 update that is coming out on June 17th. I am getting super hyped for it, and I hope every one of you is as well. So yeah, guys, if you did find yourself enjoying this video at any point, please do remember to hit that like button because it seriously helps me out. And if you want to see more content like this, you can, of course, subscribe. Links to social media and to SCHWALBE's channel are in the video description down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Signing off, this is the Iguana.